Okay, it being 5:30 of the hour, I will call this special council meeting of the town of Fort Francis to order, it being session number 46. We'll begin with our territorial acknowledgement. We respect and truly acknowledge that we are on Treaty 3 territory, traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. We also recognize our local Métis Nation that shares the spiritual history of this land. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest, and if so, state the general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is the 2024 budget. Thank you. And Madam Treasurer, were you going to give us a bit of an overview?
Sure. So I have created a slideshow here, so I'll just bring it up if that's okay. So at the last meeting of council on March 4th, we were at an operating deficit for the 2024 budget of $701,556. There were a few items that we were asked to revisit, one being the marina launch fees. So that has actually had an impact of reduced revenue of $800. Life-saving courses, due to the pool closure, we've had a reduction there of $2,500, and swim classes as well are impacted by the extended pool closure for $7,500. The final item here is the placeholder for the library changes, and we have increased the library budget by $16,822. So the total increase for this version then is $27,622 for a total need from the difference between 2023 and 2024 of $729,178.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer, and I'll go to council to ask if they have any questions or comments on this. Councillors? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Councillor McTaggart is very small on the screen, so I can't really tell, but I don't detect any questions from Councillor McTaggart. Did you want to go over some of the other items in the package then, Madam Treasurer?
So the next piece in the package is the tax rate summary. So as you can see with this increase or the changes that we've made, the residential tax rate will increase by 5.96% over the notional rate, and that ends up being 5.99%, which you'll see on the next slide. If we're just comparing, that's the municipal rate. So if we compare the municipal and education rate, because the education rate did not increase, the difference is a 5.56% increase.
Thank you. Again, I'll go to councillors if they have any questions or comments on this. Councillor Bien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Madam Treasurer. So that 5.56%, is that the actual increase that residents will see as a dollar figure from 2023 to 2024, or is it the 5.96 or the 5.99? I'm a little confused there. So if somebody asks me how much has it gone up, I can say, well, 5.56, that's the difference between their bill last year and their bill this year. Thank you.
Correct. As long as they don't have any changes to their assessment, the increase will be 5.56%.
And thank you for that question. That was a very good question. I'm sure folks at home will want to know that. Did you want to talk at all about how the various classes are affected?
Or if you'd like.
Sure. Maybe we could just quickly go over that.
So I took a small snip here of what's in the package. So basically, the residential class does take the largest burden of the increase at $515,942. As you can see, the majority of the increases are, in the less than $100 change. But there are increases that are larger as well. And going down the line, the farm increase is $64. New multi-residential is $499. Multi-residential is really small at just $203. Basically, with multi-residential, we can't increase their rate. And we've talked about that before. Do you want me to read out each one, or?
I think that's fine. We'll just see if councilors have any questions on it. Councilor, did you have any questions or comments on this part of the report? Seeing none. I think that covers everything in your package. So I'll just go back then one last time to the councilors. Any questions or comments on any part of this presentation? Oh, thank you for that. Councilor McTaggart.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the treasurer, what is the increase from the last go around that we had 2 weeks ago in terms of percentage tax rate per residence?
She's looking it up.
Through the chair, it is 0.26% on the municipal.
Could you hear that, Councilor McTaggart?
That's a higher amount, is that correct?
That's correct. It's an increase of 0.26%.
So we've gone backwards.
Yes. Any other questions or comments?
If I may.
Councilor Bonetta.
Sorry, were you done, Councillor McTaggart?
No, I'll join it. You go ahead. I'll join in a minute. Thank you.
Okay. I was just wondering if you could give me a little more information on the airport numbers in the report. We're all aware that we no longer have a commercial carrier coming into our airport. So I imagine that impacted the bottom line, but I'm just wondering, I know there are some things in process right now that you probably can't talk about, but how did you forecast in terms of whether we would be making money or losing money on the airport at this point?
CEO Rob.
So in the original first draft budget presentation, we had included the changes to the airport as a result of the loss of Bearskin. To determine those values, we took historical, like the last 12 months of flight data and passenger data from Bearskin, and utilized those numbers to calculate out what our anticipated passenger fees, facility fees, landing fees would be, basically per month for the year, and then subtracted out the months that Bearskin wouldn't be flying. So starting on May 11th and going to December 31st. It worked out to about $40,000.
Thank you, CEO Rob. Councilor Bonetta, follow up.
So there's no anticipation in the budget for a replacement carrier if that does happen down the road. So it could be a better outcome.
Through the chair, yeah, at this point in time, we aren't budgeting, anticipating someone coming in and picking that service up.
Councilor McTaggart, did you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, it's more of a comment than anything, Your Worship, and I'm disappointed that we've gone backwards on this, and I'm really having trouble supporting an increase of 5.99%. I really think that we need to go back and take another look and try to find some more savings.
I think that administration would be certainly willing to listen to any suggestions. I mean, we've had several cracks at this. We went backwards, as you put it, because council decided at the last meeting that they wanted to see some changes, and it's the result of those changes that council wanted that caused the rate to change. Councillor Bien?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. And more of a comment, but I looking at it, and 10,000 of the 27,000 was due to the extended pool closure. That was sort of out of our hands. So I think if you look at that way, the only one that's really glaring is the library one. We talked about that last meeting and why we keep it where it is. So when you see the difference, 10,000 of that is because of the pool closure, which I think is out of our hands. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Bien?
I thank you, Mr. Mayor, again through you. And this isn't in Don's report tonight specifically, but I know this from when I think it was our first budget meeting, the line on International Bridge and how it was empty or was left blank at this point because you were still trying to figure out how it should be with the new owners, et cetera. So I'm just curious, is that going to be put in there eventually, or is it something that's going to be blank for the whole year, or is it something that maybe some money does come in for that? And if so, where would it go if we get it? Thank you.
Madam Treasurer?
So at this point, I have absolutely no information to update that figure. So I guess it's like any year, what I always say about a budget is a budget. We estimate based on our best knowledge at the time of creating the budget. There will be ups and downs, along the way, and they will go in the general coffers. If we have a surplus at the end of the year, then we can discuss potentially where that will go, likely to a reserve since our reserves are lacking a bit. Yeah. Good answer.
Thank you. Any, Councillor Mackey?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I'm thinking into the future with this discussion is that 2016 was the last time we had an assessment of the town properties, residential properties. And because of COVID, it didn't happen in 2020, and so it's now 2024. So it's been at least 8 years, and we all know the values of our houses have certainly gone up substantially, at least if you want to buy one or sell one. So how does that impact the future amount the individuals are going to have to pay on their property taxes when the next assessment comes out and says your $300,000 house is worth $500,000?
I don't know if anyone here can actually answer that. That question should be directed to the province. I know that we've been trying to get information out of the province for some time now. I'm seeing a gesture from the treasurer. So would you like to speak to that?
So I think the biggest thing to look at is when we're calculating the tax rates, we're taking the CVA of every single home. So the current value assessment of every single, home, business, et cetera, et cetera. So if everything goes up, likely our tax rate potentially could go down or should go down, right? At the end of the day, what we're trying to do is say we need $13 million to run the town. That's the excess we need out of taxes. And then we just kind of back it up and say, okay, well, I have a system to do it. I'm not doing it manually, right? So it calculates for us based on what all the ratios are and everything. So we don't have a good answer today for what the future may hold, but I think it'll just realign everything. And as new businesses come to town, that will also realign and probably lower potentially some of the residential rates.
Thank you for that, Madam Treasurer. Good answer. Any further questions or comments? I'll just make a comment. This has been an extremely difficult round, the most difficult round of budget that I can certainly remember. I do want to point out that when administration took this on some time ago, that the increased amount of spending they predicted was 1.2 million. And I think that to have gotten it down to just over 700,000 was some really good work by both council and administration. I mean, it's still a significant increase, but if you look across the province, you are seeing increases in a similar vein everywhere. Times are just tough everywhere. We have so many uncontrollable expenses. The cost of living is going up. We spoke about this at our first budget meeting, and quite frankly, the province is going to have to step up and I think reassess as to how municipalities are funded. This idea of placing the predominant amount of funding on property taxes is a very old and archaic way of funding municipalities, and I'm hoping that the province is going to start to look at changing that somewhat. I'm going to put the recommendation on the floor. We have a recommendation that says that council agree with report AR-24-0528 to approve the operating budget and tax rates as presented. So I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councilor Kircher. Will you first, or Councilor Mackey? Okay. Is there any discussion or further discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that brings us to the final motion then, that having reached the hour of 5:47, this meeting of the Council of the Town of Fort Frances is now closed. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor McTaggart, Councilor Mackey. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.